And welcome back, everybody. Week 2, Management 576. This is a great ride. Let's continue to have fun together. Learning is fun. So, part of being a great leader, manager, project manager, any of those realms within the business world, right? We have to have technical skills. We've got to have good interpersonal skills. We've got to have good leadership skills and management skills. Those are the 4 key pillars of great people in the business world. And so part of those functional skills are knowing the pros and cons, benefits and disadvantages of structures and things around us. So one of the things that we talk about this week in the readings from the literature is the type of organizational structure that our company employs. Not one is good or bad, but knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each and where power lies can impact your ability to get things done, right? So organizational structures are not a one-size-fits-all, but we want to understand the key issues and then our role within them. So some factors that include that are important in an organizational structure is there alignment in the organizational structure, or is it misaligned? One of the places I worked had normally a group vice president will have a vice president report to them, and then everybody under the vice president in a chain, right? This particular organization had 3 directors. There were 6 total directors. 3 reported directly to the group vice president, and 3 reported directly to the vice president. And that organizational structure created conflict in the organization and power struggles. So we want to make sure there's alignment. Based on that organizational structure, there was not clear authority, which then impacted accountability and responsibility. Authority, accountability, and responsibility should be like the tools to create a fire. To create a fire out in the woods, to keep warm and to cook my food and make everybody happy, I have to have a fuel source, an oxygen source, and a heat source, or you cannot have a fire. Well, similarly, unless authority, accountability, and responsibility are aligned or managed and are of the right proportion, you cannot really have effective leadership. And then, of course, that would lead you then to needing paths for escalation. Escalation is a power no matter who you are or what position you have, especially for project managers, but in any role or at any level of the hierarchy. We want to be cautious on when we escalate. We want to try to solve issues at our level, at the lowest level possible. And a lot of people as a leader will bring us problems. And I will ask them, did you do X, Y, or Z? No. Okay, see, not my problem yet. You haven't yet excluded the other options. So go work those and then come back and talk to me. There is a point where you want to escalate, but you don't want to. You want to make sure you minimize that. And then, of course, constant communication is key. Constant communication. If you think you are over communicating, you're probably now just starting to communicate. So PMI, the Project Management Institute, gives really a great breakdown of some types of organizational structures. There's a functional organizational, which is stovepipes, straight up and down. Its nickname is silos, right? And so, for example, if I'm a project manager within a functional organization, I am reporting directly to the functional manager. And I can't go sideways or laterally very easily. Now, if I'm a projectized organization, and Express Scripts, they deliver medications. They are a projectized organization. The nickname there is No Home because everybody works for the project manager, but when the project is done, you've got nowhere to go back to, like in a functional organization. So no home, and you have to make sure, besides completing the project successfully, that in your role you would get people another assignment. A matrix organization is where most of us work today because it's a good use of resources. And that nickname is known as two bosses, right? And that because you often work for one and work for the other. You're matrixed. If you're a project manager, sometimes you go by other roles like project coordinator, which has some power in the matrix organization, or a project expediter, which frankly has no authority at all. So there are three types of matrix organizations: weak, balanced, and strong. A weak organization looks very much like a functional organization where the functional manager has the authority, owns the resources and the budget, and you just kind of act as a coordinator or expediter. A balanced matrix is kind of a shared effort. It is kind of a hybrid between a functional and a project-oriented organization. And a strong matrix organization would be a very strong project manager who has control over their budget, etc. We're also all familiar with virtual organizations. I just mentioned a hybrid, which is kind of like a balanced matrix organization, or a PMO, project management office. So there is another term I like to mention to people. Sometimes we hear the term tight matrix. That has nothing to do with the type of organization. It actually refers to co-location of your workers in a single space together, right? So, and sometimes you'll hear terms like close matrix or wide matrix. Those are made-up terms. Anyhow, that's just for fun. So here's kind of a picture if you're a project manager in the management level, and that could be a project, program, or even portfolio, I suppose. Project or program for sure. You have less power on the left of this arrow. If you're working in a functional organization, you've got a little more power, but not much. In a weak matrix, in a balanced matrix, more. In a project-oriented, you have tons of power, and in the PMO, you're very strong, right? So that's just, I thought this is a useful picture to show. So that's a good snapshot of organizational structures. Now, there are the role of any manager, especially project manager. Your role is to lead, right? And to set achievable objectives. They have to be achievable. They should make the team stretch, but are responsible also. So you may have to do that in a functional organization, right? Which is going to focus on this sort of management oversight of a business unit. Where if you're in operations as opposed to a functional organization, that siloed organization, you are going to focus on efficiency of operations in the business. So as a manager, you may be involved in any part of an operation or a functional organization, including a project, right? You may even be part of the business case development. The business case happens up with the C-suite, the CEO, the CIO, the COO, the CISO, the CFO, the CTO, the list goes on and on. Many companies have some, all, right? But the business case is developed there, and that's work that the C-suite develops to say, well, we know our company's strategy. How are we going to execute it now? What initiatives are we going to unveil? And that would be stated in the business case. The business case would also come with a benefits management plan, which would discuss in numbers the finances, the return on investment, the payback period, that sort of thing. And so the project manager or the manager at all can play various roles, whether they're working with their team. They can work lateral roles, work down, work up with their sponsor, with the CEO, maybe facilities, etc. You have so many roles to do. You will do performance reviews of your team. You will motivate your team. You'll hire your team. You'll fire your team. You'll release your team members when you are done with them, when their portion of the work is done. So if you're in a functional organization in that stovepipe, you've only borrowed them and they need to go back and do other work, right? And you can't do every role. You must task, delegate, set the vision, mission, goals, and allow and develop then a responsibility, roles, and relationships. I call that R cubed: roles, responsibilities, and relationships, right? That helps you then get things done. And then your role is to follow up. So delegate and follow up. Set the standard, define the vision, remind people of the goals, and follow up. Okay? So you've got knowledge, you need a technical capability, and you have an understanding and experience. That's in any manager role or leader role. As you go up the chain, why do we pay some people more money to manage a broader picture, right? They're really not doing the work. They often lose the technical expertise needed. They still got much of it, but they're not current all the time. And that's because we're paying them for experience. They understand how the business side of it works, and their sense of risk is in agreement with the owners, with that C-suite, right? So the C-suite trusts them to make risk-based decisions. You can't make money without taking risks, right? So you've got to take some, but the senior leadership understands their sense of risk and trusts them to make the right decisions based on their own sense of risk tolerance and risk thresholds, right? So we talk about leading, right? Leading. And there are so many videos. I have attached a number of videos that exemplify in the additional materials for this week. One is called the Susquehanna Hat Company. And boy, that is poor management 101, but I think it's quite funny. I ask you to look at that and just enjoy it, right? What could have been done differently? Okay, so the objectives when you're leading project team, right, is to identify distinctions between leading and managing, right? That we want to learn how to launch and manage. And we want to encourage high-performing teams to develop. We want to apply the leadership skills that we're developing and with the tools we're learning in the book, for example, that you're reading, to encourage and develop other members' competencies, including our own, and their commitment to the project, right? How do we do that? We're working towards that. That will be part of our midterm assignment, where we will do an exercise which is called What I Believe, right? But more on that later. We are building an openness and trust. The best organizations, high-performing organizations, are organizations that have a high sense of trust and respect among team members. And so we want to address conflict early. In fact, conflict should be addressed at the lowest level. Don't always feel like you need to jump in and get involved. Handle it at the lowest level possible. But you want to address it, right? You want to address root cause, not just smoothing it over, not just walking away from it, not just forcing a decision, but you want to address root cause, which enhances that sense of honesty then. And then, of course, we want to build high-performing teams, and all of these items will lead to that along the way. Now, I'm going to take a short break, and we are going to come back with leading project teams and talk about people and processes, and then the difference between leadership and management. Hey, changed my mind. I hope you didn't close the video. I'm just going to cover this last slide, and then we'll pick up leadership and management. So when it comes to leading project teams, responsibilities largely fall into two categories, right? The process and the people. And so we are trying to explore both processes and people and provide you this foundation for effectively addressing both tangible requirements, and there will be intangible, the unsaid, the not easily known. So this is sometimes further complicated with the addition of tools with people, right? And the cultural implications can be extraordinary. So we want to find change agents. We want to keep up the pace, and want to get others going along.